Okay, preparing to live stream the meeting. Gina, your hair is getting so long.
No, it's not. They're extension.
Oh. Wow. Oh, cool. Okay. All right. So we're live on here. Started streaming less than a minute ago. I'm going to, okay, good. So now our video starts with me asking you about your hair.
And now everyone knows that it's fake. Okay.
Cool. So I'm going to mute and stop my video, and then we can go live in a hot minute when everyone joins the call or starts watching. Sound good?
Yep.
Cool. There she is.
Yes.
Hi, everybody.
Hey guys.
Welcome to Tartle at the Duke, our March edition. We've got a fantastic lineup, 8 readers in total for you tonight. Thank you to everybody who's watching live on YouTube. Thank you for using the chat feature. It's always more fun for our readers because we can't hear the laughter. So chat the laughter,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Chat it up.
Make sure to clap after everybody. You know, we like to give support any way we can since we are not live, obviously.
Yes. And I mean, it's March. Hopefully next month, it'll be warm enough to do like an outdoor show again, which is kind of crazy. And then maybe by May or June, we can go back to the Duke of Perth.
That would be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And actually, Duke of Perth, if you guys haven't been there and you're local to Chicago, I think they're doing carry out food or maybe like low capacity. So go
Please
give them your business.
Them.
Yeah.
They're the only bar in Chicago that doesn't have TVs because they're like a true Scottish pub. So we really want them to stick around. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Support them, please.
Yeah. So we should get started.
Yeah, I guess we should.
All right.
Please welcome our first reader of the evening, Maddie. I was making sure to say Maddie and not Matt.
Maddie Myers. Okay. Thanks.
You've done a wonderful job, Sarah. Thank you. Matt is also fine. How are we all feeling tonight? Woo! I can't hear you. Okay. I'm sitting cross-legged in sweatpants. I haven't performed in almost a year. Let's get to it. This piece is written as if it were an email. So I'm giving you that preface so that the first few words make sense. Okay, let's start. From Kiefer Wesson. Subject, resignation. To my incredible team at Lattice Shipping Pods, while several personal and professional factors have influenced my immediate resignation, it's become clear that I must answer for the failures of February 2nd's team-building murder mystery party. I allowed my ego to cloud my judgment, thereby harming the company, those in its employ, and many of our loved ones. I do not expect forgiveness. I can only hope that this facilitates the healing process and that I may one day be forgotten. First, I was unaware that as a function of the murder mystery party genre, the culprit is to be informed that they are indeed guilty. I believed presuming one's own innocence would help smooth the play acting for those less artistically inclined. Of course, I now know better. I regret that Dalton nearly lost a digit in the walk-in freezer while I learned this lesson, which could have been avoided entirely had I better trusted the abilities of my colleagues. My intention was never to instigate violence, though I must acknowledge violence as the eventual impact of my inaction. As the sole party planner, I have correctly been criticized for allowing the night to unravel into bloodshed. I have no excuse. As a lifelong student of stagecraft, I naively believed it was the characters who were unraveling. I'm sickened to admit that in the moment, I was even proud. This deference to verisimilitude has inspired accusations of misusing company funds. I assert that despite several critical lapses in judgment, I myself paid for the catering, venue, DJ, set dressing, actors, contortionist, and cocaine. I provided all extant documentation to Beverly for review, including concept art, source materials, the entirety of compiled dramaturgical resources pertaining to Parisian discotheques of the late 1980s, and the registration of my character's Manchurian MR 73, which would have been standard issue for an officer of his rank. I have extreme confidence that in regards to production, my hands will be deemed decisively blood-free. Of course, I do not mean to make a case for myself. As I said, I do not expect forgiveness, and only through facing the truth may we begin to heal. I've heard it said on several true crime podcasts that knowing the truth, no matter how horrible, is easier than the pain of wondering. My fractured memories from the early hours of February 3rd suggest many may no longer be interested in who truly was l'assassin de la porte française. I could never forgive myself if this assumption is wrong. So in the spirit of wholeness, spoiler alert. The murderer was Edouard. This was the pastry chef character I had written for Chase, who I did not realize was still in the hospital. End of spoiler. Finally, I must address my grave error in naming the victim Lydia. Forgetting is simply not a valid reason to use the same name as a coworker's missing relative. Nadine, I am deeply regretful. I'm sure the name was only on my mind because of the posters plastered throughout the building and the adjoining strip mall. But again, I emphasize no excuses. I have listened with my whole heart and I will not make the same mistake again. Furthermore, I intend to continue this important conversation. While nobody knows for certain what's happened with Nadine's dear Aunt Lydia, I have attached some informative slides concerning the recent rise in trafficking. To the overwhelming majority of you who reached out privately saying you had a great time, I cannot thank you enough. As you might imagine, this has been quite the roller coaster and your support means the world. While it's bittersweet to voluntarily move on from lattice pod shipping, the time is right. Thank you for hearing me out, and lattice pod, thank you for the many wonderful years. As one parting favor, please keep an eye out for Hellmouth Circus escape rooms coming to the Crestmont Pavilion Mall this April. Best, Kiefer Wesson, CEO, Hellmouth Circus Escape Rooms. From Kiefer Wesson, RE subject resignation. You guys, yikes, I forgot to attach the slides. Here they are. Best, Kiefer Wesson, CEO, Hellmouth Circus Escape Rooms. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Maddie Myers. Excellent work. Hellmouth. Yowza. Please welcome to the virtual stage our next reader, Stephen Young. There he is.
Thank you, Maddie. That was amazing. Brilliant. Thank you. This is a entirely true bio about someone similar to me. It's unclear how peace was restored to our timeline or how it was wrecked in the first place. Conservatives blame the stolen election. The DSA blames Joe Biden's Chinese robot brain. Your in-laws blame cancel culture, but they're all wrong. It was Steve Young, and Antifa saw him coming. 1984, March, Sunday afternoon, the 25th day of March, 1984. The day that Stephen Young was born by a heavily laden stork into the hospital room of Beth and Craig Young in Portsmouth, Virginia, in what was then called the United States. Winston Smith hadn't yet heard of Stephen Young, but he soon would. Stephen's parents were traveling grifters, and Stephen spent his childhood running cons from Virginia to Massachusetts, from the Texas Redoubt to the Mexican Rockies, and finally to the Grand Duchy of Idaho, where he spent most of his childhood. Stephen attended the famous Joseph McCarthy High School for Extremely Average Humans and Girls, where he excelled in band, marching band, and friendship. Stephen was an average white boy, sometimes serving as the leader of Boy Scout groups, Boy Scout meetings, and even Boy Scout campouts. It was as a scout that Stephen was first exposed to the dangerous Antifa ideas like the planet is a nice place and we should keep the planet nice, and small units acting independently but with a common goal can overthrow the ruling class. However, he was also Mormon, and it was in his Mormon church meetings that he learned such lessons as serving the community is good, women be talking, and how to patriarch. Stephen enlisted in the Marine Corps when he was 17 years old. He was so young that his parents had to consent to his enlistment, and the recruiter had to let both parents sign the contract because the argument over which parent got to sign their son away was about to cause them to divorce. His mother remarked, quote, "My only regret is that I have but one son to give to the glory of the U.S. Empire," forgetting that Stephen had a younger brother who went on to join the army himself. Then came 9/11. Someday that Stephen knew that Osama bin Laden would attack on that infamous September 11th. Some point out that Muhammad Atta is an anagram for Stephen Young. The truth is that the war of terror would expose Stephen to new ideas and experiences that would affect his life forever. As the tragic war that followed eroded American civil liberties, so too did it come to erode Stephen's innocent blindness to hypocritical political conservatism. In the Marines, Stephen initially deployed to Belize, Israel, and Sokovia. He was considered a scoundrel, roustabout, rapscallion, but mostly a handsome warrior. In 2009, Stephen deployed with the Marine Corps to Ramadi, Iraq, and while there, he found Saddam Hussein's stockpile of weapons of mass destruction. There was an accident while Stephen was dismantling a nuclear warhead that caused all of Saddam's WMD to be eliminated from Iraq and from our timeline, making it look like the US had illegally invaded Iraq under false pretenses. In order to fix the damage to US pride and to permit US forces to stay in Iraq for many more years, Stephen was sent to the Kingdom of Jordan with orders directly from Hillary Clinton to start a quasi-state in the region based on Islamic fundamentalism. For a short time, it was a resounding and horrific success. After leaving the Marines, Stephen returned home and attended law school at the University of Utah. Calling him hopeless and deplorable, and I can't say anymore due to a non-disclosure agreement, the dean of students permitted Stephen to graduate a semester early. During law school, Stephen encountered various women with ideas and bodily autonomy. At first causing consternation, this interaction and education opened his mind to various liberal ideas like contracts are boring, what even are laws, and why does this place cost so much? Stephen then moved to Somerville, Massachusetts. Some would say that his already less than traditional journey was derailed on his first day at church when he met Carol Ann in Cambridge. A known feminist, this Carol Ann was also a vegetarian, a cyclist, and a vagabond. She beguiled Steve with her wiles and by claiming to also be from Stephen's hometown of Boise, Idaho. Ever since attending Brigham Young University and becoming all liberal, Carol Ann had traveled with unsavory characters in the anarchist movement, the feminist movement, and the I don't even have a TV movement. Saying that Stephen was adequate, Carol Ann agreed to have him as her first husband. The couple was married in 2017, and since marrying, the two of them have been competing to see who can be more of a leftist. In 2018, Stephen embarked on a career in comedy. He performed stand-up for packed arenas and joined the world-famous Night Job sketch comedy group. Days before he was to sign a 10-picture deal with Paramount, the country went into quarantine because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The increased growth and visibility of the anti-racist movement in the summer of 2020 led to another turn in Stephen's journey, a turn onto the freeway of direct action. From his time in the Marine Corps, Stephen knew how much impact one person can have if they have the desire to act. So he began to act and sing and dance. Stephen is a triple threat, it turns out. Stephen participated in many protests against police brutality in 2020, but that wasn't all. His experience in asymmetrical warfare came in handy during the summer and fall of 2020 when he led the 4th Antifa Armored Bicycle Battalion during its fire-starting campaign in the Pacific Northwest. These so-called wildfires were so successful that he was awarded the Iron Baseball Bat with distinction by the Antifa Central Hierarchon. Stephen was then called upon to command Antifa's newest weapon, der Jüdische Weltraumslaser, the Jewish space laser. After several successful operations using the space laser to edit ballots in Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia, Stephen disappeared on January 6, 2021. No one knows where he went or why. Some say he's a hand model in Uruguay. Others say he went to the stars or back in time to search for Saddam Hussein's nukes. Still others say that he lives on today, moving quietly from town to town, trading Bernie Sanders memes for meals and telling people about how he'd once been a middle-class white boy who came to eschew exclusionary forms of conservatism and Americana.
Virtual clap over the internet for Stephen. Thank you. Women be talking and how to patriarch. Those got me, Stephen, and those are classes I would take. Okay, please welcome our next reader to the virtual stage, Rogue Schmidt.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you, Stephen. I am Rogue Schmidt, and I will be reading a piece called Guilt in Numbers. If you know a store called Farm and Fleet, you know that they sell a number of things. Things like shovels, chicken feed, and lumber. Well, when I went there, it was for beanie hats, because most beanie hats look like a tiny little penis on my head when I wear them. But at Farm and Fleet, there's a brand that does not do that to my head. So I stocked up, one in every color that I could find. I went to the checkout and I started some small talk with the little old lady who was scanning my items. Her name tag said Betty. And the conversation was pretty dull with me and Betty. And I fully admit that I am that annoying person who loves small talk, especially small talk with old people. Because 9 times out of 10, we talk about what the temperature is outside, how old their grandkids I'll never meet are, or how tall the crops have gotten, and that's beautiful. Again, the conversation was dragging with Betty and I until she asked for my phone number for rewards. I gave her my mom's phone number, which is full of sevens. 287-747-7793. Betty lit up like a Christmas tree. She blurted out, "You've got to play the lottery with that many sevens." Then I blew her goddamn socks off even more when I told her that my birthday is on the 7th, and that is why it is my favorite number. Her jaw hit the floor, her dentures slipped out like a smidge, and she practically screamed inside of this Farm and Fleet, "No, really, go play the lottery." I have 2 lucky numbers. One is 7, one is 23. Numbers have an immense impact on my life. I am constantly thinking about numbers. I am technically just a number in the government's eyes. I work for a math company and I press in a 4-digit code, 8675, like Jenny's song, to open up my phone because I do not trust Face ID. I am delighted by all of the numbers that I see in a day. I like finding purpose and meaning in places that some might just pass by. It feels like a little secret bond between me and this existence. However, sometimes that sanctity that I hold with numbers betrays me. Betty made such a commotion that it brought over her other cashier buddy, Ethel. Ethel was like, "What's going on here?" And next thing you know, we all start talking about what we would buy if we won the lottery. Betty, being the saint that she is, said that she would pay off her house, take care of her grandkids, and then donate a good percentage of it. And I believe her. In my core, I know that is exactly what Betty would do without batting an eye. Ethel was rolling more my style. She was like, "Log cabin on a lake, that's all I need." I then took it up several notches. I got that look in my eye that sometimes freaks out my best friend, and I forced Betty and Ethel into a pact with me. I was like, "All of us are going to play the lottery today. If any of us win, we split the winnings evenly, each of us taking home a third." They kindly obliged. Then we all realized I was holding up the line of lovely Farm and Fleet patrons, AKA impatient farmers, and I parted ways with Betty and Ethel on cloud 9. The honor system is ingrained in me, and I wish it was not. I feel like my life would be 10,000 times easier without it. Because the second I got into my Honda, I was swarmed with guilt. The voice in my head was like nagging, You just went way over budget on hats. You can't go blow more money on a lottery ticket, you ding dong. Why did you make a pact with two old ladies? Oh God, it's because they reminded me of my grandma, and I love my grandma and I miss her and I would do anything for her. And she loves gambling. Oh my God. I was pretending that they were my grandmas. Shit. Okay. I threw my car in drive and I tried to put them out of my mind. But every gas station I passed on the way back, I was headed to Chicago from Central Illinois, was begging me to pull into it and get some lottery tickets. But I resisted. I was nearing the end of my drive. I had my new beanie hat on, no penis shape, when my e-light came on. I needed gas. So I stopped, I filled up my tank, and I had to go pay for my gas inside the station. I had to face the lotto case. I gawked at the lottery tickets, but I didn't buy any. I practically sprinted back out to my Honda, but then I stopped dead in my tracks because I felt like I was going to puke. So I turned around and marched my ass back into the Shell station because I could not break the pact that I had made 2.5 hours earlier with Betty and Ethel. The scratchy lottery case is fucking enticing. Everything looks like a sweet, delicious promise of tasty, good fortune. I was pondering which lottery ticket I wanted, and I went with my instincts and chose the lotto ticket from my lucky number 7 cubby. I saw the price. It was a $10 ticket. That was not good news. I thought, okay, forget it. I can get the cheapest one. Now, I won't win if I stray from my lucky number, okay? I've got to spend the $10. So I purchased the lotto ticket from slot number 7, and I also purchased 2 $1 ones for a warm-up to the big $10 one. I held up another line of lovely customers. I took my scratchies, and I went back to my Honda. It was time to scratch. I got my penny out of my wallet and I wondered if fate was on my side, where Betty and Ethel, angels, and my ass was about to win big. I think that's the appeal of gambling, is that tiny speck of hope that is in your head with that paper in your hand. It makes me wonder if we were all in a better place with our basic needs taken care of. Would we even get such a high from it? Or is gambling only a lost man's game because the winners need not that shot of hope? I went through my 2 warm-up scratchies, bust. I have now arrived at the $10 ticket. No fucking around. This was the main course. So if you haven't done scratchies, it goes like this. There are winning numbers, and then there are your numbers. Under each of your numbers, there's prize money that you win under it if the number matches any of the winning numbers. I scratch off the winning numbers section first, and I saw some of my favorite numbers on it. I started to scratch the your numbers section. However, I separate this section. I scratch off the number, but I don't scratch to reveal the prize money. I check to see if any of the numbers match, and if they do, it's like a second reveal when I scratch off the prize money. Okay, I matched one of the winning numbers, and then another, and then another. 3. That is my holy trinity. It was a good sign. It was time to scratch off my prize money. It was my second bump of the drug of hope. I was ecstatic. I was practically vibrating. Please, I hope I win big. And then I won $5, and then another $5, and then another $5. $15 all together. I spent 12. I made back 15. That's a profit of 3. That's my holy trinity. I said to myself, oh my God, I won. Farm and Fleet. Farm and Fleet, I have to split my winnings with Betty and Ethel. Well, how do I split it? Do I split my net profit with them? Each of us get $1? And then I was swarmed with guilt. That wasn't our deal. The honor system, our deal was we split the winnings. Betty gets 5, Ethel gets 5, I get 5. I spent 12, now I get back 5, and then I was left with just a loss of my lucky number 7. Thank you. I've been Rogue Schmidt. Thank you, Tartle crew, for having me.
Oh man. And for anybody at home who's counting, today is 3/7, March 7th. Kind of cool. 2021, 21 is 7 times 3. I don't know. I mean, what are we doing here? Why aren't we all playing the lottery right now? Thank you so much, Rogue. Rogue was in my improv class a million years ago, and I was very excited to see her here. So I'm so excited. Okay, please welcome our next reader to the stage. I'm checking my RO because I don't trust myself. Carly Scherber.
Hello. Hey, thanks everyone. Thanks Tartle for having me. Everyone's been so good so far. So this is fun. What a fun way to share writing right now. So I kind of miss gossip. I miss like getting together with my friends on the weekends and just like talking about what we've been up to and what like horrible person we've like let take up real estate in our minds for that week. So I'm hoping to treat like the next few minutes like that, just sort of like capturing that sort of feeling and energy. So last December on, I guess this would be 2019, what year is it? On my morning commute downtown, I saw a really kind man that I had a fling with, and he was acting in an Illinois lottery ad. And it was on one of those TV screens that was stationed inexplicably near the exits of the Washington and Wells Brown Line stop. Shout out. And I paused because I watched him like act in this like pretend to celebrate, you know, behind like augmented reality confetti in this ad. And I was like, wait, he like already won the lottery. He dated me. But since things had fizzled out in late spring, I hadn't really dated anyone else. And some quick math let me know that for the past year and a half, I'd only had sex once every fiscal quarter. And maybe perhaps viewing it in such a way, such a sanitized way was part of the reason why. And then I also realized that Q4's window was quickly closing. Then I went home for the holidays in Minneapolis. And on my last night home for the holidays, I went out with some high school friends that I hadn't seen in a while. And this was the only night that I wasn't staying with my parents, who live like 30 miles from the city, in case you like, I don't know, want to go kill them or something. And I was the only person in my group of friends at the time who like wasn't getting steady dick. So if I wanted some tonight, it had to be here and I had to troll for it. 'Tis the season. And so a little bit of history about me is I never really used dating apps in Chicago. Like I used to download and re-download just like when I came home from the bars to sort of like browse men while ordering food when I came home, and just would send like filthy messages just on impulse with truly no interest in, you know, of acting on any of that. Like I'd be laid up like, you can't handle this pussy, but I'd have like Cheesy's delivery on the way. If anyone can relate, drop a comment in the chat. And most recently, I deactivated my Tinder after my feed had showed me my 36-year-old coworker, Wesley. He had spent a holiday in New York at a clowning workshop, so I deleted Tinder because I was like, okay, yeah, I'll probably just end up marrying this person. So we're out and back at my friend Carrie's apartment. I'd matched with a few guys. And the first guy who I'd asked, can I come over to, replied, no, sorry, I'm eating hot dogs at my dad's house. And that made me pause because I was like, hot dogs plural, respect. And how about your dad? Is he finished eating or is he hungry? When I was telling my friend this story of this night out in the search for sort of just this casual, you know, affair, I got to this part no, I'm eating hot dogs at my dad's house. She gasped and was horrified and was like, hot dogs, but it's winter. So the second guy that I matched with said, my house is under construction, but I'm down. And I kind of thought, maybe I'll wait till they get rid of the tape on that one. And the third guy I'd matched with responded immediately, duh, you can come over. And I thought I'd found myself in sort of a real Goldilocks situation of, this first man is too hot, dog. This man's house is too cold. And Emmett, this third man, is just right, except for the fact that he was selling cocaine to college students down the block, which is what his roommate told me when I showed up to their apartment and he was absent. And then at around 3 a.m, I'm sitting in my car and another man who'd been pretty quiet all night piped in with, yes, that sounds fun. And the address was a 5-minute drive from me. So I went to his place, and I'm using the term his place loosely because I pulled up to, of course, an assisted living facility. So as I hustled through the parking lot, I thought to myself, I hope you liked your silly, desperate life, Carly, because it's over. So I step into this man's buildings, I guess it's a building, the lobby. It's well lit, think floral chairs with the plastic seat covers and a dizzying patterned carpet. There was no desk attendant because everyone residing in the assisted living facility had been asleep for 8 hours. The residents go to bed at 7. He stepped out of the elevator, was so kind, and immediately apologized for where we were, mumbling something about it being cheap and convenient. When my friend heard that part of the story, she asked, do you buy that? Do you really buy that? He just lives there because the rent is cheap? And I said, yeah, you can't be a med student and have 24-hour nursing care. That's cheating. So yes, it's true. It's true. The rumors are all true. I have slept with a med student before, not to flex. I also want to give the preface that I have nothing but respect for first-line responders. They have literally lived through hell. I lost my grandmother to COVID last year, and I have so much respect for people who are in the nursing field on their way to. That being said, I have some notes about the hookup. So back in his otherwise very standard 1-bedroom apartment, or should I say independent living unit, he apologized again. And between showing me his potted plants, talking about classes, he mentioned he was interested in moving to Chicago after graduation because that's where the best trauma work is. And I fought the urge to say, oh, honey, I perform improv in Chicago. I know trauma. And instead, I weakly just said, oh, you must have moved here into this building for the cool neighbors, right? Flashing a smile and like willing myself to catch early onset Alzheimer's. And then I slept with a med student, and he's a 3rd-year med student at that. I should mention he's not dabbling. So like barring a family tragedy, he's getting that degree, baby. And it's fun to talk about just, sort of like casually at parties or in, sort of a situation like this when you're like smoking a blunt with your friends on the couch on the weekends. And it's fun to say you hooked up with someone in the medical field, like in a Grey's Anatomy way, which I didn't watch, but it was a little less glamorous than I thought it would be. Like, for example, instead of ripping off like a crisp button-down shirt or like maybe like a lab coat, I pulled off a University of Minnesota fleece quarter-zip sweatshirt over his head. Although I was wearing a Grand Rapids Improv Festival t-shirt, so we were kind of both showing our cards. And the encounter itself was also a bit too clinical. Like while making out, he looks at me and says, do you have any STDs? Which is an amazing question. Like totally, like honestly, I'm a little bummed I hadn't thought of it first. Like absolutely, you should ask before you hook up with someone. And I responded like, oh God, no, do you? And he said, of course not, I'm a doctor. And I was like, okay, first of all, you can't say that a little sexier. And second of all, not yet. You're not a doctor yet, buddy. As of this year, we're both the same amount of doctor. So after a pretty unremarkable hookup, I'll spare the gory details out of privacy because I'm truly, taking this man to church for no reason. He's certainly not on here. And he gives me what sounded like a prognosis, like pulling out is the treatment we used, but it's only 94% effective. He literally said 94%. I was like, you couldn't round up? And anyway, I was able to get him to write me a little prescription. And by that, I mean, he gave me $40 cash for a plan B. So Yeah, I slept with a med student, and I haven't been back to Augustana senior living housing since, if you can believe that. I don't remember this man's name. I've never seen him since. I went back to Chicago 2 days later. I don't even really have a clear image of his face anymore. But I do remember as I left his place, passed through the halls and halls of sleeping grannies, back through the lobby and into the chilly winter air, I thought, that's the last time I fuck a guy for his intelligence. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you, Carly. Carly, I don't know if I knew you were also from Minnesota. Me too. I wish I had a story as entertaining as that about med students. Please welcome to the virtual stage our next reader of the night, Grace Piotrowski.
Hello, thank you for having me today. Tonight I will be reading a handful of poems for everybody. I am a poet. All of these have been written over the past year during quarantine, starting with a take on the infamous William Carlos Williams poem, the Plum poem, for those of you who know it. Mine is called Apologies to My Roommate During Quarantine. I have killed the plant that you left by the window and kindly asked me to water until your return. Forgive me, I wanted to help, but I'm not good at chores. This is called Other Places I'd Rather Be on June 1st, 2020. I want to be stuck beneath someone's armpit on a crowded L car during rush hour when I can barely balance because there isn't enough room for both my feet to not stand contorted, so I'm mostly standing on my left foot. And we stop for an unknown amount of time because an unauthorized person is on the tracks. And I won't moan or roll my eyes because I can hear the top hat drumming from the douche with the AirPods, and I'll soak in the heat from the bodies and their breath and exasperated sighs. Because at least I'm commuting, because at least we're employed, and at least we'll be moving soon. I want to be waiting in a crowd 3 people deep to buy an overpriced drink at an overrated bar where my friends will be overexcited to find 8 square inches on a dance floor, to move with each other and smile at each other as the perfume mixes with the alcohol and our sweat tastes like months of loneliness leaving our bodies. And I'll meet a guy named Brad or Chad or Dick and go home with him and have bad sex, because at least I'll be having sex. And at least afterwards, he'll wrap an arm around me and I'll feel the heartbeat of another soul in bed. I want to wait in line at the DMV where I'll spend an hour overhearing Karen talk on the phone to Sheila about what David did at work and why she needs to get through this line soon to make it to Macy's for their buy one, get one sale on Marc Jacob handbags. And I won't mind the exposure into someone else's life and will remind myself of all the other places I have to be too, because at least I'll have other things to do. I want to meet someone who, instead of shaking my hand, says, I'm a hugger, and then proceeds to hug me, even though they didn't ask if I am also a hugger, which I am not. But I wouldn't even complain because at least I'm meeting someone new. I want to call my grandmother and leave a message because she is out at church and having lunch with the ladies and running errands and happy and healthy and not home. This next poem, one of the things that kept me going during quarantine is a really amazing group of poet friends that we write prompts and keep each other accountable to writing. And this poem is based off of a prompt for a condiment, which I wrote a sonnet for whipped cream. And I will not be taking arguments if that's a condiment or not. So this is sonnet for whipped cream. Your whip has me in a fluffy tizzy when pulling off both sexy and silly. They can hate on young love, but I don't care. Your sleek can, your airy hiss has me there staring at you in the glow of the fridge, always available to be the bridge between breakfast and dessert. You create a sweet treat when on ice cream or pancakes. I may be 23 and have better things to take a shot of. I'd endeavor. Your tight taste outweighs any whiskey or gin. You make me forget gluttony's a sin while you spin and swirl all over my food. Indulge my childish ways just to taste you. This next poem is an abecedarian, which means that every line is the next letter of the alphabet. And for context, I wrote this in December when we were like 8 months into a 2-week quarantine. So I hope other people can relate to the mental state we were all in at that time. And it's called A Truthful Answer to the Question, How are you? Ask me again, but be more specific. Certainly you desired the question to be eloquent in its simplicity. How are you? Following social conventions when greeting a fellow human, but I would prefer the honest. How are you given the fact that we're still in a pandemic that our government has failed to competently, let alone successfully manage, as we move from our normally scheduled depression to our holiday special seasonal depression? As the sun sets before 5 p.m. every day while we're justifiably still mourning everything we've lost or sacrificed over the past year of our lives. Judging from my correction to your question, you would know I am not doing well. Maybe we should just stop asking, how are you? It's not necessary. We're all doing awful. Our systems aren't failing, but instead working as they were designed, and we're waking up to that reality, pushing our feelings into binging. What? It doesn't matter. Alcohol, TV shows, food, BuzzFeed quizzes, we all have our vices. Really, I'd love to know what meme made you laugh most recently, or to just start our meeting immediately. The small talk only delays the end of this. Call me rude, but I'm uninterested in the weather outside your home, or how victorious you feel after finally nailing the sourdough starter. My wise ass wants to call out your fake sincerity, but I also believe in exercising empathy. So I smile and say, good, how are you? Go along with your small talk while I pop a Xanax. This year is a shit show, so excuse me while I zone out. I've recently learned none of this really matters. I have 2 more poems for you. Last year was a shit show, but a couple cool things happened. One thing is back in April, we learned that 2 pandas in the Hong Kong Zoo that had lived together for over a decade finally consummated their relationship. And I think a lot of us learned about panda reproduction and the fact that they can't do it without us, which is funny in my mind. And this is a poem about that called Horny Pandas. Pandas are dumb. They don't know how to fuck. Their parents just birth them and wish them good luck in their future reproduction, never teaching a lesson about the once a year chance to make an impression, or the best position for maintaining a population, or how sometimes you'll wait a decade of cohabitation to initiate copulation. This is my final poem. Thank you so much for having me tonight. Reflections on others. I like people who drink craft beer and cheap wine. I like when people aren't bothered by walking in the rain, and when people have no guilty pleasures, just things they enjoy. I like people who flirt and people who don't care about staying with a friend of a cousin's old roommate and always have their couch open to pass on the favor. I like people who believe in fate and people whose love language is making playlists. I like people who look up directions someplace so you don't have to, and people who rock climb, and people who stay for dessert, and people who have backpacked but can talk about something other than their backpacking trips. I like when people crouch to talk to kids at eye level. I like people who send postcards, and people who tip well, and people who always carry their water bottle and chapstick with them. I like people who have green thumbs and good relationships with their siblings. I like people who whistle but can't keep beat. I like people who like bad movies. I like people who never take out the trash but always remind themselves not to forget. And people who take too many selfies and have a favorite season, and people who always text back even if it's never on time. Thank you.
You guys, in our chat on Zoom, yes, we have a private chat. I was just saying how much I love when we have poetry on this show because it's so different, it's so unique. It's a medium that I respect because I do not understand it and I'm not good at it. So thank you so much, Grace. That was awesome. I loved that. Please welcome our next reader of the evening, a Tartle at the Duke favorite, Eli Mandel.
Hi, thank you for having me. How's it going? Great. Okay, this is a thing. I don't know, I'll just read it. All right, cool. It's called NYC Restaurants I Can't Wait to Die In. For a food critic like me, being unable to enjoy an evening inside my favorite restaurants has been torturous. Now, as indoor dining is set to resume in New York, here are a few spots I absolutely cannot wait to get coronavirus and die in. Grinaldi's Little Italy. And the way this works is I'll say the name of the restaurant and then the neighborhood. I realize that not everyone's going to know these neighborhoods, but anyway, that's how it works. All right. Grinaldi's Little Italy. Classic, quotidian, delicious. Nothing is over the top in this legendary red sauce joint, but everything they do well. If I may borrow a phrase, when you're here, you're family. And if I'm going to contract COVID-19 and die, I want to be surrounded by family. Cross and Goat, Chelsea. Winston Potts Elevated Brew Pub, which burst onto the scene in 2008, hasn't seen a customer since last March. But if their black and cauliflower wings, $14, are anything like they were pre-pandemic, and if my sense of taste and smell don't peter out, sign me to croak in their newly renovated Bavarian-style beer hall. Jawohl. Brot Nolita. Okay. Yes, molecular gastronomy is so 2000 late. Call me pretentious, tasteless, literally, or toffee-nosed, all you want. But serve me a freeze-dried tomato bisque spheroid with fig, Niçoise, olive, and pine nuts, and I'll suffocate as silently as possible in your understated dining comments. Do we have a deal? Big Creek, East Village. I don't even know if they serve food apart from Ruffles in this iconic East Village dive, but they have Miller High Life on tap for $4, and that's a rare find in this town. I'll have 2 of those as my insides waste away, thanks. Cafe Marseille, West Village. Yes, it's a tourist trap. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, it's filled with Midwestern yahoos looking for the jazz mecca where Miles Davis and Gunch Buncherson cut their teeth. But let's face it, I'm a sucker for old New York. I'm shaking with what I assume is anticipation as I'm thronged into the dimly lit basement of Cafe Marseille with dozens of other jazz nuts jostling the way to a front row cabaret table, which are so close to the stage that the horns are basically blowing in your face, daddy-o. Add to that a communal bowl of gin punch, 1 straw for your party, and you'll be riding high for 11 to 14 days. La Crêperie des Canards, Upper West Side. Okay, here's the scene. I'm hacking up blood. I can't feel my legs, barely able to think through the pain. As I crawl to my seat, a surly old French woman drops a pair of duck confit crepes, 1895, on the floor where I lay in my own mess. Don't mind me. I'm just in heaven. Someone speaks, Crown Heights. Of all the hipster cocktail bars in which I'd like to exacerbate my pre-existing condition, Someone Speaks is just a cut above. I would consider myself lucky to sip on a nightshade, rum, curacao, and homemade sage bitters as I succumb to death's enticing call. But at $18 per drink, I may not be able to leave much of an inheritance to my daughters, Zoe and Maya. Sorry, girls. T. Juanita, Williamsburg. As my family in tears begs me not to, I'm taking them to T. Juanita. Is it authentic? No. Is it healthy? Absolutely not. Is it my favorite Mexican food in Brooklyn? See. T. Juanita's Blanco Margarita is second to none, and the fish tacos, $13, difficult to swallow with my inflamed, bleeding esophagus, are without a doubt the best in the city. Don't believe me? Take it from my daughter Maya, who said, "You're putting us all at risk. Please let's leave. If not for us, then for others." Sounds like we're gonna need another Blanco Margarita, por favor. Sunshine Place, Astoria. I've known Harry Lee Chan, the owner of Sunshine Place, for over 20 years, since I first covered the legendary Cantonese Hole in the Wall in December of 1999. In all that time, I have not found a dumpling that even comes close to Harry's. How he keeps the exterior chewy yet firm and the filling so utterly moist to the point that you suspect a syringe is involved is beyond me. When I am gone, he will look after Zoe and Maya and raise them as his own. And as I take my vain final stand against this vicious disease, the final thing I want to taste is a chive pork dumpling from my friend Harry and a Dr. Pepper. Thank you very much.
Absolutely insane. Eli, if you go to Tartle's page on Instagram, you can find Eli's page on Instagram, or just go to Eli's page if you know where to find it. He recently released a zine full of little pieces, how patronizing can I be? Full of pieces that he's written that are very funny. Please go check it out. It's awesome. Congrats, Eli, and thank you so much for doing this show. That was unreal. Please welcome to the virtual stage our second to last reader of the evening, Gina DeLuca.
Hi, guys. Okay, this is a very old piece called Fool's Gold. Magnus is the King Charles Spaniel that lives in the mansion of a family I work for. He looks like a dog from another time, wandering the grounds of Buckingham Palace, and fits with the generic luxury of the house, a 4-story city mansion on School Street with an elevator and 6 full bathrooms. The place would be beautiful, but the constant influx of packages and shopping bags and stuff makes it look more like the family is in the midst of moving in or out, a giant desk drawer that people live in. I first met Magnus during the interview. I could tell he was anxious, matching my nervousness about impressing Kate and Sawyer, the parents of Sophia, their 3-year-old. At the time, Kate was pregnant with Vivienne, who would be in my charge once Sophia went to school in the fall. But for the summer, Sophia was all mine. "Very nice to meet you both," I said, shaking their hands. I consider myself very good at feigning competence and tend to get the jobs I interview for. I speak louder and deeper and carry myself as sturdily as my twiggy frame will let me. I try to convey to parents that if their kids choke on grapes or something while I'm watching them, I'll be able to handle it like the Surgeon General. We sat down in the living room where Kate asked me the same question she already asked me on the phone. "How will you keep busy when they're napping?" "I'll clean and take out the trash. I just love to keep busy." "How has your education influenced the way you nanny?" "Actually, improv comedy has been my biggest influence. I just love to play pretend." "Are you willing to get CPR certified?" "Yes." "No." I must have spoken deeper and louder than the other candidates because I got the job. Now, I get paid way too much to convince 3-year-old Sophia that coloring at coffee shops while I wake up all day is the most valuable way to spend our time. Every Wednesday and Friday, I arrive at 9 a.m. to a frantic Magnus whose stress level is so high upon my arrival that he immediately fucks everything in sight. Kate will greet me, baby Vivienne in her arms, Magnus mounted on her calf, pumping away. It's clear she hardly notices anymore, accustomed, I guess, to a small, hairy animal raping her legs as a way to cope. "Magnus," she'll yell occasionally, and he'll dismount, still crouched over, his blushing penis twitching like a worm trying to find its way back in the dirt. "Sawyer doesn't want to emasculate him by getting him fixed," she says, as if this isn't the most outrageous way to rationalize that decision. I guess Sawyer's worried that if he neutered Magnus, other dogs would be more likely to call him a bitch if he missed a catch at the park. I guess he thinks Magnus's friends would think he's gay for going to the groomer to get his nails trimmed, or that Magnus should feel ashamed about crying because no one that's supposed to love him ever responds to his nagging to be cuddled on the couch. But Magnus doesn't put hot sauce on his kibble, or go out at night to get drunk and fight other dogs, or ride his bike without any paws on the handlebars or a helmet on his head. Magnus's ego is completely intact. Ironically, the only thing confirming Sawyer's fear that his dog is weak is Magnus's humiliating obsession with getting off and his inability to do so. Since Sawyer apparently cannot empathize with Magnus's suffering in this way, one has to wonder about the potency of his own masculinity. Maybe someone should neuter Sawyer so he doesn't risk siring any sons should he ever possess the virility to do so. When the family went out of town, I stayed at the mansion to watch Magnus, who exploited any opportunity to dehumanize me, even indirectly. His very presence caused strangers to completely ignore me while they interacted with him. Like any good sociopath, Magnus is very charming to people who don't know him. I tried to make eye contact with the couples he befriended, but they were not interested in knowing me for even 10 seconds. Sometimes they couldn't bother to look in my direction at all, let alone say hello. Hi, cute boy. What a cute boy. You out for a little walk, cutie? Isn't he adorable, hun? A woman might say, bending over to accost him. Yeah, he's a good boy, the man bellows, grinning at the dog while I wait for my chance to say hello. My, what a beautiful coat. You must be a spaniel. So cute, just like our little cutie Buttons. Hi, I'd whisper, trying to exist in the same moment in time as this dog and two other human beings. His name is Magnus. Oh, Magnus, what a good boy, they'd say in unison, acting as though his name arrived to them from the dog itself. My name is Gina. Okay, bye-bye, Magnus. Have a nice walk. As I stand there looking on, Magnus instantly forgets the last 2 minutes. That weekend, Magnus followed me into the bathroom while I showered, then into the bedroom where I got dressed, watching the entire time. He'd stay with me at night, eyes wide open at the foot of the bed while I fell asleep. He never tried to have sex with me, but used me all the same, a little wolf of School Street, rich, selfish, and pathetic. Magnus doesn't play, he doesn't wag his tail, he doesn't shed, he doesn't smell like anything, he doesn't bark. All he is cute and horny. If he had been neutered, he might cease to be sentient altogether. It felt like I spent time with a genetically modified husk of corn, bred solely for the company it provides and nothing else. But now, when I look into his sad brown eyes, I see that there is a soul behind there, a personality, something that's been repressed deep inside for fear of how the world might react should he ever let anyone see. I wonder what kind of dog Magnus would be if he didn't think about sex every single second of every single day of his 8 years on this earth. He's depressed, lonely, and anxious, neither able to fix himself nor ask for help, a furry, four-legged symptom of a masculine disease. When 3-year-old Sophia's Halloween costume arrived in the mail, she squealed and screamed with excitement, Kate unable to open the box fast enough. I was told to put on the soundtrack to Grease while Sophia changed into her black leotard, waisted belt, and red shoes. The family had found a toddler-sized Sexy Sandy costume, and preschool Sophia's dream came true. She would officially be the hottest girl in her grade. Sophia pranced around in her blonde curls and red lipstick, looking more like JonBenet Ramsey than Olivia Newton-John. Doesn't she look adorable? Kate asked me from inside her yoga pants, as You're the One That I Want played in the background. Sophia knows how to dance with a sway in her undeveloped hips and move her shoulders up and down, using her body to flirt with an audience. She knows to rub her hands down the front of her torso. She knows all the moves to seduce a full-grown man or her dog, Magnus. Don't I look beautiful? She asked me, her voice gritty like a spoiled little troll, while Kate clapped along to the music. You look like Sandy. Wow, you look just like her, I said over and over, looking past her like a mannequin as Magnus watched her dance from under the kitchen table, panting. Sophia has made beauty her highest priority because she knows that's how she'll get the most attention. After all, it's what garners the greatest reward for the central characters in the movies she watches. Sophia's obsession with how she looks is matched only by her unchecked consumerism, making her a complete dumpster of an American. Constantly wanting things, getting them, feeling that rush of dopamine when she does, and then becoming bored very quickly, the treadmill of desire resetting itself 100 times a day. She is a drug addict with an external locus of control, reliant on everything and everyone but her own brain to satisfy all her emotional needs. Sophia gets a new toy after every swim lesson, a treat from Starbucks after every gymnastics lesson, candy if she puts on her own shoes, new clothes almost every day, it seems to me, and endless toys to keep her occupied on the family's private planes. Her little bed has 30 toys in it, taking up so much space she can't fully extend her legs. Some are stuffed animals, some are plastic dolls, 2 are water bottles. I wonder why she has trouble sleeping, Kate asks into the ether as pediatricians, both dead and alive, all roll over at the same time. After she eats 2 bites of a chocolate waffle, Sophia is for some reason allowed to leave the table. So I'll take her upstairs to get ready for school. Sophia owns 5 toothbrushes, each depicting a different princess. I will use up precious minutes of my life waiting for this toddler to make the decision of which woman's head she feels like using to brush the first layer of breakfast off her teeth. Then I'll throw her Cinderella nightgown in the hamper while she chooses between a dress with Elsa or Snow White's face on it, and if she wants, Jasmine or Ariel undies. Because she's chosen Ariel to wear on her pelvis, she'll wear socks with Jasmine's head on her feet. I'll then brush her hair with her Belle hairbrush, and she'll make the painstaking decision of whom she wants clipped to her scalp, deciding on one of 300 hair clips, again, choosing Jasmine. Sophia is now wearing no fewer than 5 faces, and that's before she puts on her shoes. Don't I look beautiful? She'll ask, like a baby hobbit who's mastered vocal fry. You look pretty cool, I'll say. I will never give her the satisfaction. Kate will pack her lunch in an expensive lunchbox that is so thermally insulated, the jelly on a PB&J sandwich wouldn't bleed into the bread if you took it to the moon. This brain fog kit is filled with Elsa string cheese, a sun butter sandwich on white bread with jelly, Skittles, and apple juice. As if about to part with a newborn for several days, Sophia will demand to see her Christmas list before heading out the door, which is just her mother's shopping cart on Amazon, filled with princess chalk and princess Play-Doh and princesses wearing the skins of other princesses, living in a castle built by princesses filled with furniture made of bleached white princess bones, the walls painted with royal menstrual blood. Sophia will take one last look, forgetting that she's wearing all the same faces she'll miss seeing throughout the day. If she were a boy and into trucks, no one would be saying anything, Kate said to me once, comparing apples dipped in caramel, topping a 3-tiered apple cake glazed with bulimia and oranges. But even if Kate and Sawyer encouraged Sophia to go outside, to play with toys that don't do the playing for you, or forbade dressing like a sexually liberated woman for Halloween, Sophia might still end up like her nanny, a person who saved up money from her job waiting tables at an Indian restaurant to get breast implants while studying abroad in Argentina, only to be talked out of it at the last minute by her host mother. I fear that one day Sophia will date a man just like herself, or Magnus, or Danny Zuko, 2 lonely hearts lacking empathy, which they were never taught, their self-worth measured only by how others perceive them. They'll bond over a heliocentric outlook, the whole world orbiting around their needs, only warming to those that fall in line. I worry that she'll take and take from others, not knowing how to make herself happy, battling for approval from the minute she looks in the mirror in the morning to when she takes off her makeup at night, unaware of the hurt she's likewise causing. I hope she doesn't grow up depressed, lonely, and anxious, only able to ask for the things she can do herself. But then maybe she'll turn out just fine. Thank you. And now, closing out our show, we have my lovely co-host, Sarah Ashley.
Thank you, Gina. I don't want to follow that. It's too funny. Oh, I love it. Okay, great. Here we go. This year, I'm going to become a plant person. I've always wanted to become the type of person who has a green thumb and the patience and tenderness necessary to wield it. I'm going to have a serious number of plants in, around, throughout my home. Boston ferns hanging from the kitchen ceiling. A money tree in the corner of my bedroom. I'll replace all of my artwork with pictures of my plants, or just more plants. Yeah, I'll have a wall of wildflowers. I'll splurge on aerodynamic watering cans that help me reach the dangling sweet potato vines in my sunroom without pulling a muscle or offending my falling eucalyptus. My hanging planters will be made with macrame, garnished with colorful beads, and hold beautifully painted ceramic pots with spider plant leaves tumbling out of them. I'll start calling myself a plant mom, leaving parties early because I need to go home to water my cacti and repot my ailing ficus. I'll be late to work because I had to drop my orchid off at the sitters, or maybe because my monstera refused to put on shoes for horticulture school. And all this after a sleepless night of cradling my aloe succulent back to sleep. Instead of tying a room together with a rug, I'll cover my hardwood with sod. And wait, actually, I think I'm going to become like a design person this year. I'll start by covering my hardwood with sod instead of carpets. Very Frank Lloyd Wright. Bring the outdoors indoors. I'll be at the forefront of innovative design and blog about all the creative updates I make to my home. I'll combine minimalism with maximalism to create a new ism that's all about maximizing the minimal and minimizing the maximum. It'll be like Scandinavia's simple aesthetics meets Versailles' elaborate extravagance on acid. My bathroom will have solid gold Baroque fixtures and a serenity fountain and a clawfoot bathtub. No, wait, I'm gonna become a bath person in 2021. You know, like one of those people who always takes baths. And I'm talking fancy baths, the kind you see in anthropology catalogs with sliced citrus and hibiscus blossoms floating underneath a bamboo bath tray. I'll slink into the tub, preparing to spend hours relaxing, not thinking about my life outside the bathroom. I'll choose a bath bomb from the bath bomb bowl I'll keep right near the faucet and plop it into the water. As it fizzes and bubbles, I'll sip red wine from a long-stemmed glass in one hand and read a classic novel like Jane Eyre in the other. I'm going to become a person who reads classics this year. You know, the type of person who's a classics reader. I will always have 1984, War and Peace, and Great Expectations in my bag, and Grapes of Wrath, Slaughterhouse-Five, and Beloved on my nightstand. I'll reference To Kill a Mockingbird in casual conversation and recoil in horror if anyone says that they haven't read Wuthering Heights or that they didn't like it. I'll have a print of The Great Gatsby's cover on my reusable grocery bag. I'm going to become entirely green this year. No plastic, no trash, all produce, no extraneous packaging, no loofahs, compost only, garden out back, no cars, only biking or walking or running. Fitness. Fitness is going to be my 2021 thing. I will be in the best shape of my life and wear exclusively athleisure. Fashion. I'm going to become a fashion person this year. I'll start an Instagram account and every day I'll post a new pic of me in culottes and crop tops with poofy sleeves. Sleeves! I'm going to start to be the type of person who is all about sleeves. Long sleeves, short sleeves, cap sleeves, cuff sleeves, 3/4 length sleeves. Math. And that's it. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for coming to Tartle at the Duke tonight. What an exceptional group of people and really funny readers. Thank you so much.
This was such a good show. Thank you all so much for watching, and readers, I mean, we just had a really good time. I hope you all did too. So for next month, we will have a virtual show. It'll be, I'm teaching a workshop right now, a 4-week workshop in writing a humorous essay or story. And so we will have our class show in April. And we are also hoping to have another regular Tartle show, maybe outdoors in Chicago. We will see. But so stay tuned for that announcement once we figure that out. And
yeah. And we recently started offering workshops. If you didn't know, I taught a workshop, how to hack or hacking the personal essay at the end of February. Gina just started her workshop, writing and reading the humorous personal narrative. That workshop for sure, and maybe mine will also be offered again. So please check out our Instagram page or our website, tartle@theduke.com, for more information on workshops.
workshops. But if you want to build a website,
you can also
start. Yeah,
you can look at our website for information on how to make a website look.
Okay. All right, well, great, thank you guys so much, and we will see you next month.